Welcome back. I'm Shay Blackman, founder and CEO of Shay Blackman Consulting, DBA candidate in organizational leadership, author, and your go-to voice for culture transformation that actually sticks. You're listening to Unlock, Empower, Transform, and this is episode 54. Today we are going somewhere most organizations are afraid to look. Not at the people walking out the door, but at the ones still sitting at the desk. Still on the Zoom call, still responding to emails, still technically employed. But are they really with you? That is the question. We are talking about quiet stayers today. And if that phrase doesn't immediately make you nervous as a leader, buckle up because it probably should. The cost of staying isn't just a retention problem. It's a culture problem, a productivity problem, and yes, eventually, a financial problem. And the tricky part? You won't see it on an exit survey because nobody's exiting. Not yet. Okay, think about the people on your team who used to light up in meetings, who used to send you ideas at 9 p.m. because they were excited, who used to push back on bad decisions in the respectful, productive way because they cared enough to have an opinion. Now think about whether they still do that. If the answer is no, and there hasn't been a major life event or role change to explain it, you may be looking at a quiet stayer. Quiet stayers are not the same as quiet quitters, though the two often get confused. Quiet quitting is about doing the minimum. Quiet staying is more insidious. These are often your high performers, your most reliable contributors, the ones who have so much invested emotionally, professionally, socially, that leaving feels like too much of a disruption right now. So they stay, but they've mentally checked out. They've decided, somewhere in the back of their mind, that this organization is not where their best energy belongs anymore. They just haven't done anything about it yet, and that yet is where you have a window. My research in organizational leadership keeps circling back to this truth. Disengagement is rarely an event. It's a slow drift. And most of the time, there were signals long before the resignation letter. Let's get specific about what this actually looks like, because they seem different is not an HR strategy. In communication patterns, and I want you to really think about this from a data perspective, here's what tends to shift. Response times increase. Not dramatically, just enough to notice if you're paying attention. The emails that used to come back in 20 minutes now take a couple of days. Meeting contributions drop. The person who used to have a comment about everything gets quieter. Not absent, just quieter. There's a difference between someone having a bad week and someone recalibrating their investment. Calendar behavior shifts too. A person who used to block time proactively for collaborative work starts scheduling solo. Fewer cross-functional meetings, more heads-down solo calendar blocks. On the surface, it looks like focus, but look at the pattern over time and it starts to look like withdrawal. Collaboration data, especially in organizations using platforms like Microsoft Teams, Slack, or project management tools, tells a story when you know what to look for. Reduced tagging of teammates, fewer thread initiations, lower participation in channels that aren't strictly required. These aren't just communication habits, they're engagement signals. And then there's the subtler stuff. The feedback that used to be candid starts to soften. The person who would tell you this process is broken now says it's fine. Fine is never fine. Fine is what people say when they've decided it's not worth the energy to push anymore. There was a company that brought in an engagement consultant after losing 3 high performers in 1 quarter to competitors. When the analysis was done, every one of those departures showed a 60 to 90-day window of measurable behavioral change before the resignation. Reduced project ownership, fewer initiative-driven conversations, a noticeable drop in the proactive communication that had been their signature. The data was there. Nobody looked. We are in an era where people analytics can flag these patterns before they become departure patterns. That's exactly what my work at Shay Blackman Consulting is centered on. Building the infrastructure so organizations aren't always reacting to loss. Right, let's do something with this. I want to give you a quick exercise you can do this week. Seriously, this week. No consultants required yet. Step 1, pull your mental roster. Think about your team, whoever you directly lead or influence. Write down the names of the 2 or 3 people who carry the most institutional knowledge, the deepest relationships, the highest performance history. Step 2, for each person, ask yourself, when did I last hear them bring up an unprompted idea? When did they last push back constructively? When did they last express any enthusiasm, frustration, or investment beyond the task at hand? Step 3, score them. And I mean honestly, not how you hope things are. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is completely withdrawn, 5 is fully engaged. Not performance, engagement. There's a difference. Step 4, if anyone is a 3 or below, that person needs a direct, intentional one-on-one this week. Not a performance conversation, a conversation about them, what they're working toward, what would make their work more meaningful, what they need that they aren't getting. That's it. That's the exercise. It doesn't require a platform or a survey tool. It requires you to be honest about what you're seeing and then do something about it. This kind of reflective diagnostic is one of the first things I walk leaders through in my high-value leadership framework, because you cannot transform a culture you refuse to accurately assess. Now, here's where most leaders get it wrong. They recognize the drift, they panic, and then they overcompensate. A sudden title bump, a project reassignment, a compensation conversation that honestly should have happened 18 months ago. And look, compensation matters, recognition matters, but if someone has mentally checked out because they don't feel seen, valued, or connected to the organization's purpose, throwing money at it isn't re-engagement. It's a short-term patch. Real re-engagement is relational and it is intentional. First, proximity and purpose reconnection. Get back in proximity to the person, not surveillance, genuine investment. Understand what is meaningful to them right now, because what mattered 2 years ago may not be the same today. Career goals shift. Life priorities shift. Does your knowledge of this person still match who they actually are? Second, give them something to own. Disengagement often takes root when someone feels like a cog rather than a contributor. Ownership is one of the most powerful re-engagement levers there is. Not extra work, ownership. A meaningful initiative they can lead, shape, and see through. Something that signals, we see what you're capable of and we're investing in it. Third, honest conversation about growth. One of the top drivers of quiet stayer behavior is a perceived ceiling. The person doesn't see a path forward, and nobody's had the conversation to either create one or be honest that one doesn't exist in this organization right now. Both of those conversations are hard. Both of them are necessary. Ambiguity about the future is where disengagement lives. Fourth, look at the team environment. Sometimes the quiet stayer isn't disengaged from the work, they're disengaged from the environment. A toxic team dynamic, a coworker conflict that leadership has avoided addressing, a shift in team culture that no longer reflects why they came. Culture is either retaining or repelling people. There is no neutral. This is the work, and it's not soft work. It's strategic, measurable, and it directly impacts your bottom line. In high-value leadership, I break down how organizations can build cultures where engagement isn't dependent on individual manager effort, but is embedded in how the organization operates day to day. That's the shift from reactive retention to proactive culture design. If you haven't grabbed the book yet, now is a great time. Link is in the show notes. I want to take a moment to tell you about something I'm building that I'm genuinely excited about. The High Value Leadership Intensive is coming, and it is designed for the exact leaders listening to this podcast right now. If you are a leader who is done with surface level culture initiatives and ready to build the kind of organization where your best people don't feel the need to quietly drift, this course was built for you. We go deep on culture diagnostics, re engagement frameworks, communication architecture, and retention strategy, all grounded in the high value leadership methodology that I've been developing and refining over more than 2 decades of progressive HR leadership. I'm not giving a launch date just yet, but I am building a community of people who are ready. The link to get on the wait list is in the show notes. Go get on that list. Before I let you go, I want to mention the free resource that's available to you right now, the SHIELD Resilience Strategy Guide. SHIELD is a framework for building personal and organizational resilience from the inside out, and it maps directly to what we talked about today. Because here's the thing, leaders who are carrying their own unaddressed stress and emotional fatigue are not equipped to see the disengagement in others. Self-awareness, healthy coping mechanisms, building internal resources, creating external support systems, maintaining a learning orientation, and sustaining daily practices. That's what SHIELD stands for, and that's what it will walk you through. Download it, actually use it, and if it shifts something for you, come back and tell me about it in the comments. I mean that. Link is in the show notes. All right, let's land this plane. Your best people are still here. The question is, do they feel like they still belong here? That answer is not fixed. It is a choice you make as a leader, every week, in the small moments that add up to culture. The cost of staying isn't just a business metric. It's the cost of unspent potential sitting in a chair, showing up with a fraction of what they're capable of, waiting to see if anything changes. Don't let that window close. If this episode gave you something to think about or something to act on, share it with a colleague, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming Thursday. Because Thursday, we're getting into something every leader needs right now. Recession-proof your talent, building retention in economic uncertainty. Trust me, you'll want to be there for that one. I'm Shay Blackman, and until next time, unlock your potential, empower your people, and transform your culture. We'll see you Thursday.